ස්ථාවර නියෝග 23 යටතේ ප්‍රශ්න කරු රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතා.
Honorable Speaker, soon after the resolution number A/HRC/22/L1 promoting reconciliation and accountability in Sri Lanka on Sri Lanka was adopted, Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe is reported to have said that the government of Sri Lanka does not concur with the resolution or its contents, and the reconciliation program initiated by the government is at a satisfactory level. The government's official's position was that Sri Lanka is being selected for this kind of attention not because of the gravity of the problem, but for other reasons which have absolutely nothing to do with moral or ethical considerations. They are considerations of a political nature. Subsequently, the ambassador to the United States, Mr. G.L.Peiris Wickrmasinghe, stated in The Hill, the Congress blog dated 27 March 2013, we agree that while much has been accomplished since 2009, more needs to be done. This has not been contradicted to date and therefore can be accepted as reflecting the official government position. The ambassador also stated that the commitment is not just to democracy, but also to respecting the rule of law and the principles of sovereignty. This is in line with the resolution which states, welcoming and acknowledging the progress made by the government of Sri Lanka in rebuilding infrastructure, demining, resettling the majority of internally displaced persons, and noting nonetheless that considerable work lies ahead in the areas of justice, reconciliation, and resumption of livelihoods, and stressing the importance of the full participation of local populations, including representatives of civil society and minorities in these efforts. This in fact reflects item 3 of the resolution, which states, calls upon the government of Sri Lanka to implement effectively the constructive recommendations made in the report of the LLRC. This is a change of policy which amounts to accepting the resolution number A/HRC/22/L1 and signals the desire to broaden the relationship with the United States. We should all welcome this reversal of policy. I request the government to make a clear statement regarding the change policy. The media has also commented on this change during the weekend. In particular, will the House be informed, 1, where these anticipated talks will take place, whether it will be in Washington, D.C., Geneva or Colombo? 2, will the government consult all the concerned stakeholders before proceeding? 3, will the government indicate the time frame in which the recommendations of the LLRC are to be implemented? 4, will the discussions be confined to the US government or include India, United Kingdom and the other countries who voted to adopt the resolution? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I am grateful to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for raising this issue because it gives me the opportunity of clarifying the matters that he has referred to. The whole basis of the question put to me by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is that there has been a change of government policy. I wish to state emphatically that that is not the case. The basis on which the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has come to the conclusion that there has been a change in government policy is the statement attributed to Sri Lanka's ambassador to the United States of America, His Excellency G.L.Peiris Wickrmasinghe. The Honourable Ranil Wickrmasinghe stated, he quoted a statement attributed to Mr. Wickrmasinghe dated the 27th of March 2013, and all that the ambassador said was this, open quote, we agree that while much has been accomplished since 2009, more needs to be done, close quote. That is all that the ambassador said. Now, that is self-evident. The LLRC report consists of no fewer than about 285 recommendations. A great deal has been accomplished during the last 4 years that have elapsed, but having regard to the wide range of matters encompassed in those recommendations, it is all too obvious that there is more to be done. No one can reasonably expect the entirety of this work to be completed within the short period which has elapsed since the cessation of hostilities. So this is what the ambassador said. Then the Honorable Leader goes on to quote from the text of the resolution, and he quotes the following words: welcoming and acknowledging the progress made by the government of Sri Lanka in rebuilding infrastructure, demining, resettling the majority of internally displaced persons, and noting nonetheless that considerable work lies ahead in the areas of justice, reconciliation, and resumption of livelihoods. That is also obvious. Substantial work has already been done, and there is more to be done. Now, this does not mean that there has been any change in government policy at all. The position of the government is very clear, and I wish to state it explicitly on the floor of this House. We do not concur with the resolution, and our representatives in Geneva distanced Sri Lanka very clearly from the content of the resolution. Now, I would like to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, in a spirit of fairness and objectivity, to reflect on the reasons why this country cannot possibly acquiesce in the resolution that was passed in Geneva a short while ago. There are several reasons. I would like to outline the more important reasons. First and foremost, this resolution calls for an oral update on Sri Lanka to be presented by the United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights at the 24th session of the Human Rights Council to be held, Mr. Speaker, in September this year. Oral update. That is not the end of the matter. The resolution then goes on to require the Commissioner to submit a comprehensive report followed by a discussion at the 25th session of the Human Rights Council, which will be held in March 2014. So what is the effect of this? Every 6 months, this country is going to figure in the agenda of the Human Rights Council. That is one of the most important objectives that have been achieved by the resolution that was adopted a few days ago. Now, government of Sri Lanka does not accept this position. It never has, it never will. There is absolutely no change in that position. The reason, Mr. Speaker, is very simple. As we survey the global landscape, can anybody in their senses seriously suggest that Sri Lanka is the most troubling situation in the world? There is no proportionality in this at all. Why is it, in an increasingly troubled world, where there are so many crises which are crying out for attention, how is it that this country, which is living at peace with the violence of 30 years behind us, how is it that this country is being specifically targeted in this way? Why this selective treatment? Now, I would like the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to address that issue in a spirit of objectivity. These are not partisan issues. These are not matters that should be involved in the thrust and parry of party politics. On the contrary, these are national issues which have a vital bearing on the well-being and the future of this nation. We cannot possibly accept that position. Why this sharp and exclusive focus on Sri Lanka? Every 6 months, recurring over and over again. That is certainly not acceptable. We will never accept it, and there will never be the slightest change in that position, which is emphatically and explicitly adopted by the government of Sri Lanka. There is another reason why this resolution is fundamentally unacceptable. The resolution, Mr. Speaker, seeks to incorporate the report of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. The High Commissioner for Human Rights called for an international investigation in respect of this country, not this month or last month, but 1 week after the hostilities ended in May 2009. On what evidence did she call for this international investigation? There was absolutely no material on which she could have based such a call. And then, subsequently, at regular intervals, doggedly and persistently, she has repeated that call for an international investigation. And her recent report, which was presented to the Human Rights Council, contains a reaffirmation. She reaffirms her call for an international investigation. Sri Lanka absolutely rejects that claim. So that is yet another reason, and I'm sure the Honourable Leader of the Opposition would agree, it is a compelling reason why this resolution cannot gain acceptance by us. And that is not all, Mr. Speaker. The text of the resolution seeks to incorporate also the report of the so-called panel of experts, which we refer to as the Darusman report. Now, the Darusman report has been categorically rejected by the African group of countries and the Organization of Islamic Countries. They have clearly and categorically rejected the Darusman report. That is not surprising at all. It is a report which was prepared in a bizarre manner, because the people whom the three persons on that panel spoke to asked for an assurance that their identity would not be disclosed for 20 years. So, Mr. Speaker, these were assertions made in the shadows. Nobody knows who these people are. Nobody knows the basis on which they made these assertions. There's no filtering process. There's no way of testing the veracity or the reliability of the statements that were made. Under cover of anonymity, you can say anything at all, Mr. Speaker. Now, that is the evidentiary foundation of the report which was submitted to the Secretary General by the panel of experts. I also wish to tell the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that this was a report that was prepared entirely outside the intergovernmental process, entirely outside. So these are among the reasons, Mr. Speaker, why large swaths of the globe had no hesitation in rejecting this report. Nevertheless, that report has found its way into the text of the resolution. So there is absolutely no doubt or equivocality about this. The government of Sri Lanka does not accept the resolution that was adopted in Geneva. There is no change in that position at all. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would beg to disagree with the Honourable Leader of the Opposition when he says that there is a change of policy which amounts to accepting the resolution A/HRC/22/L1. There is neither a change of policy nor acceptance, expressly or by implication, of the resolution that is referred to by the Honourable Leader. Now, we reject this resolution, Mr. Speaker, because it is perfectly evident to anyone who cares to be objective what the consequences are. This resolution has been the most powerful catalyst for dissension, discord, even violence. It has divided the Human Rights Council, it has divided the world, it has divided this country, it has also divided some neighboring countries. It has spilled over into areas like cricket, cinema, and its consequences have certainly not been conducive to moving forward in a constructive way, a sensitive and delicate process on which we have embarked. So against that background, Mr. Speaker, please allow me to respond to the 4 questions which have been put to me specifically by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The first question is, he asked me whether anticipated talks will take place and whether they will be in Washington, D.C., Geneva, or Colombo. There are no talks which are anticipated. Therefore, the question of the venue of those talks does not arise. The second question is, will the government consult all the concerned stakeholders before proceeding? Since there is no intention whatsoever of engaging in this exercise, the question of consulting any stakeholders does not arise. The third question is, will the government indicate the time frame in which the recommendations of the UNHRC are to be implemented? Again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to tell my honorable friend that these are recommendations of different kinds, different clusters of recommendations. They are very different from one another. Some are capable of being implemented in the short term. We have already done that. For example, the recommendations with regard to the resettlement of internally displaced persons, reabsorption into society of ex-combatants after exposure to programs of vocational training, the demining process, useful things which have been done with regard to the revival of the economy of the North, these have been done. But by their very nature, there are some recommendations which are going to take more time. For example, the recommendations with regard to the land issues, which are incredibly complex and convoluted. Also issues relating to land, linguistic capability, cultural cross-pollination. These are not matters in respect of which delivery overnight is at all feasible. So they are obviously going to take longer. In the public domain, information is available with respect to the time frames attaching to the different categories of recommendations. So that is the position. They are not all recommendations of one type or kind which can be brought within a uniform time frame. And the last question, which the Honorable Leader of the Opposition has put to me is, will the discussions be confined to the US government or include India, the United Kingdom, and other countries who voted to adopt the resolution? There is no multilateral exercise of that nature which is contemplated at all. We are talking to all these governments. The Honorable Speaker, a few minutes ago, welcomed the distinguished parliamentary delegation from India. And it will be my pleasure to meet them as soon as I complete this reply to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. I will be meeting them in a few minutes. Only last evening, Mr. Speaker, I met with and had comprehensive discussions with a parliamentary delegation from Germany, consisting of all three of the major political parties there, the CDU, the SDP, and the Greens. I spoke to all of them last evening. So these consultations are continuing. But there is no plan for the kind of multilateral exercise which the Honorable Leader of the Opposition referred to, because there is no need for that. So that, Mr. Speaker, is my reply on behalf of the government to the question which the Honorable Leader of the Opposition has been kind enough to put to me. I thank you, sir.